Then the smallest amount of possible grease on the skewer. These are Salsa flip-off skewers. Match the red hub. Mount those up. Then tubes and tires, and the rear wheel will be done. Alright, wheels are finished. I'll probably have to wipe these dirty tires off before I actually mount this on the bike. See, all the way down to the little red valve stem caps. And the front wheel down there. Seems like I haven't started since the frame is still in the box, but more than half the work at this point is done. Most of the work is in the wheels, and they are now complete. Okay, before I can even get the bike up in the stand, first thing I got to put on is the seat post and the seat. I'm using a classic Brooks leather B17 saddle, black. Comes with all kinds of crazy packaging, their own little newspaper and everything. For the seat post, it's a Thompson Elite seat post. I think it's 330 milliliter length, which I got extra long. Probably I could have gotten the next size down, except Dale wouldn't have been able to ride my bike. So this carrying around about that much extra seat post for Dale every time I'm riding along. And the seat post clamp is a simple Salsa clamp, came with the frame. So I just eyeballed those parts together for now. I'll put it in the stand. Next I'm going to mount up the fork and stem. This is the Salsa Vaya fork. Put a light layer of grease over this whole bit here, keep it from rusting. Good bit of grease down here on the crown race, which has already been pressed on by the bike shop. And then I'm just going to assemble all the parts and hold it together with the stem, which is a Thompson Elite X4. And before I fit it, you can see that for later I have this blingy red Salsa cap, headset cap, instead of using the Cane Creek one that came with it. And I'm not going to use the star nut now, I'm just going to hold the whole thing together. I also have these fancy schmancy Cane Creek interlocking spacers I'm going to use, which go right into the cup there, and so I won't use this little filler spacer. That's if you're using regular ones. And this is the top part that presses down onto the bearing. So I'll stack all that stuff together and jam it on the bike and just hold it on with the stem for now, so I can size and see where indeed I really want to cut this steer tube. And the fork assembled on there, at least temporarily. And I've got to tell you, sorry Chris King, this Cane Creek 110 is a way nicer headset. The seals and everything on that thing are really pretty amazing. Smooth. So, really nice. Okay, now I got both wheels on. And the next step is to work on the crank. Crank and bottom bracket are SRAM Rival with one of these GXP outboard bearing bottom brackets, which I've never installed before, so I'm going to have to get out the instructions and make sure I know what I'm doing. So, surprise, surprise, it goes on like every other bottom bracket in the world. There's my little diagram. Here's the tool I used to put it on. I have it hooked up to my torque wrench. I've already installed the drive side, and I'll go around to the other side and put in the non-drive side. Okay, the cranks are on. It's definitely a different system for putting on cranks than I'm used to. Is it better? I'm not convinced. Okay, next up are the pedals. Time as usual. These are the Time Attack XC, and I'm realizing they have some sort of little adjustment screw on there that none of my other pedals have. So I'll have to figure out what that does. I'm also going to use these pedal washers because I got a thing with the cranks that said use these pedal washers. So that's what I'll do. Next will be these little down tube cable stops. They go right on there on either side for the cables to come down. Then I have a SRAM Rival front derailleur for braze on, and then I have this special braze on problem solver's clamp that will fit my tube and allow this derailleur to be used with any size down tube or seat tube. Alright, that turned out pretty cool. This is the clamp, and this is where the braze, this is the clamp. This is where the braze on derailleur normally goes. There's normally a little part that goes on the other side that you don't use when you use this special clamp. Otherwise, it's set up perfectly. I thought I was going to have a problem clearing for my cage, but I checked it. And from the last build, you know we can solve that. And the cable stops are in over here. And incidentally, for you purists out there, these are Campagnolo cable stops, and I paid like 3 times as much as I should have for those so that I could avoid the scourge of having any Shimano parts whatsoever on my bike. As you know, I don't build any bikes with any parts from fishing reel companies. Okay, I've bolted on the rear derailleur, which is a medium length cage SRAM rival. You need that longer cage to soak up the chain for this huge gearing. There's 1132 in the rear, 5034 in the front. 10 speed. I've mounted up the rear brake caliper. Check out where they put the brake on this bike. This bike is so cool. That's why I love this thing. They don't have it up here where normally it is on a mountain bike out of the way, so you can get racks and whatever. It's tucked in between the seat stay and the chain stay on this little bracket down there. Lined it in there. It's rubbing because I don't have it adjusted, but it's going to be pretty cool. Okay, both the rear and the front brake calipers are on and adjusted. Now I'm going to mount up the handlebar. The handlebar is a Salsa Cowbell 2. And by the way, these brakes are Avid BB7 mechanical discs, so they're cable actuated. There will be cables running up. And the bike has all the bosses already on them, even on the fork, coming off the back of the fork for the cables to route. Alright, well now I've put the bar on and had a little bit of fiddling around and adjusting and measuring and comparing to my old bike, and I've decided there's no way I'm going to want this handlebar any higher than it is right now, but even just in case, I'm going to put one more spacer up on top and cut that and set it up with a spacer on top, just in case I might want to come up that extra little bit at some point for whatever reason. So I'm going to mark that, take the handlebar off, disassemble the fork, cut the fork, pound the star nut down inside, and reassemble. Okay, I'm inside. I've made my measurement. I measured 3 millimeters lower, and now this is a saw line guide. Saw goes in there, make sure he cuts it straight. Cut that off. Okay, cut that tube off. Here's the extra part I cut off. Take a file, make this nice and clean and smooth so it doesn't cut up my seals when I press my headset on there, and that feels really good. Next step is to take this star nut and pound it down into that hole, and that'll give the thread for the headset to attach. The way you do that is you thread that onto this thing, and then this, take a mallet, pound it down until it's flush, and that will sink the star nut to the right depth. I'll put a piece of wood under here. I'll get out of the wood box there, and so I can raise the fork up to give me something to pound against.